Greenlight Network presents Football Time.
Hey, and welcome to the Football Time podcast. We're here for the NFL preview show. We got the AFC South and the NFC South this week. The season is getting closer and closer, about a week and a half away. If you're counting the Thursday game, probably 2 weeks away in real time to get the full season underway. But we're continuing our preview series. And with us, as always, Achilles Reign. Are you ready to get into the Southern football divisions?
Oh, yeah, baby. Let's do this. I don't care what division we're talking about. I'm ready for some football. Let's go.
All right. So let's start out with probably the most interesting team in the AFC South, the Indianapolis Colts. Their win total, the highest in the division. I think it's dropped a little bit since when we probably sent these notes, but it's in and around the same number. 9.5 wins for the Indianapolis Colts. A fairly good season last season. They ended up winning 11 games, had a real tough game in Buffalo where they actually outplayed Buffalo and things just didn't quite break their way. So new quarterback in there, no more Phillip Rivers. We got our man Carson Wentz in there. And per the Carson Wentz everything, he breaks his foot the opening week of training camp. But now they say he's going to be back. Same with Quentin Nelson. So it looks like everything's a full go here. But what do you make of this Indianapolis Colts team here?
I think it's going to be a lot of the same as last season. Now, granted, I'm not 100% certain that they're going to match their win total from last year. But I think they're in a similar situation, being that I think defensively, they look pretty much as good as they did last season. The question is going to be offensively, how far can the quarterback get them? A lot of it's going to depend on Carson Wentz, whether he can come back into Philadelphia form to, that granted, he didn't win the Super Bowl, but he led them to that Super Bowl. So if he can get back into that type of form, then I think there's great things to expect from this team. But there's just so many question marks when it comes to that offense.
Yeah, really overall, I think the question mark is just Wentz. Their line is a good line. They bring Jonathan Taylor back. I think we're expecting good things from him. Technically speaking, Marlon Mack probably won't be right back at the start of the season, but he will probably return sometime during the season. T.Y. Hilton took a cheap 1-year deal to stay on this team. You have Michael Pittman Jr. in his second season, Paris Campbell. So the skill position guys are there. The defense, I wouldn't call it, one of the elite defenses in the NFL, where we put the Rams or the Patriots or probably the Steelers. But I think it's probably a notch below
like
there.
The tier below that.
Yeah. But this is easily a defense that can win you a Super Bowl. But Wentz is everything. He goes to a team where he had the most success as his offensive coordinator in Philadelphia. Do you think it's as easy as that? And he'll get back to doing stuff, or have the injuries and just wear and tear on his body the last 3 or 4 years since he's really been good, and we saw a lot of promise in him, is just too much to ask to get anything out of him?
Well, it almost seems like he was playing outstanding. I mean, I remember going back to the draft when the questions arose, whether it be Carson Wentz or Jared Goff going number 1. And I think I've said it several times before on our shows. I was a Carson Wentz guy. I wanted Carson Wentz for the Rams. Now, with all that being said, he did lead his team to a Super Bowl, and Jared Goff did lead the Rams to a Super Bowl. So I think there's a lot of similarities there, but I think that when he had his most success was basically when he was upright. That's when they were protecting him and keeping him up. He's got a really deep skill set. And I think that as long as that offensive line can did what they did for Phillip Rivers last season, then maybe he can get back to where he was. And if he can, I think they're going to be a dangerous team. But again, I said it earlier, there's a lot of question marks on that offense. And like you stated, they all come from the quarterback position.
Yeah. This 9.5 win mark here, I do think it's doable. They did win 11 games. You know, if you ask me, I probably think Phillip Rivers at the time was a better quarterback than Carson Wentz. I mean, I don't know how much his body had left into it, but he seemed to still be able to make the right decisions. Certainly last year, he made a lot of right decisions to keep his team in the game. The thing I worry about too with the Colts is I don't know if you peeked at their schedule, but the first 5 games of the season are Seahawks, Rams, Titans, Dolphins, Ravens. They get a little respite, get the Texans, and then they play the Niners and the Titans again.
Ooh,
to open that in 8 weeks, literally, you could say, for definitive purposes, they might be able to win 1 game. The rest of those are toss-up games. So it is very scary to really push hard on an over on this team, even though I think that number is low, whether, Carson Wentz is in there or not. Now, if Wentz is gone and it's Jacob Eason or, Sam Ellinger, it's definitely going under, but they just got a murderous schedule. Now it eases up on, this back end here, the last, 4 or 5 games. So if they can keep themselves in and around 500, probably those first, 8 weeks of the season, the last, 8 weeks, well, technically 9 weeks now, gets a little easier for them. But that start of the season really has me a little bit nervous, especially if, people are already starting to come back from injuries in week 1.
I mean, when you just lay it out the way you just did, it's actually really scary. Like, I wouldn't be shocked to see them win 1 game within that span. I think they could possibly beat Houston, but you're talking about the Titans. The Titans are loaded. Maybe not defensively, but offensively, they're a powerhouse. You're talking about the Rams, you're talking about the Dolphins, you're talking about, the Steelers. There's a lot of tough teams, a lot of, playoff hopeful teams that you named there. So it definitely gives me a little pause when it comes to taking the over on that. But I guess it kind of levels out a little bit as the season progresses. But I mean, for a quarterback who's coming off of, tough last couple of seasons to a new team, it's probably not the best way you want to get started facing off a lot of those good teams.
Yeah. Division wise, the number sits, at plus 105. The Titans are plus 110. The Jags and the Texans are the other 2 teams in this division. So it's really a 2.5 team race. We'll get to my Jags a little bit later. But it came down to 1 game last season separating the 2. It probably might come down to 1 game this season. If you ask me honestly, like on comparing both sides of the ball offensively and defensively, I think the Colts probably have overall a more balanced roster on both sides of the ball. So I think they might be a little bit of the better team here. But with that schedule, I just don't know what they will be able to do if they start getting behind early and having to sort of catch up to get to that 500 mark and then make that push at the end of the season.
I agree with you 100% as far as more balanced team. I think they're definitely the more balanced team in that division. The problem comes, they lost Costanza, and I know that they've already shored up the offensive line. So, 1 loss isn't huge, but you're talking about continuity, especially in the offensive line. I think it's really important. So you bring in a new quarterback, you bring in a new offensive lineman, and listen, as good as they were last season, I still think they had their struggles. I know T.Y. is taking that, hometown discount deal, but when he wasn't on the field, the receivers really weren't making a lot of noise. I think that they have the type of record they had last season because of the running backs. The running backs were very versatile coming out of the backfield. They served as both running backs, as blockers, and as receivers. We saw in many games where the best receivers on the field were the running backs. So I think, the running game is going to be very important this season, but also I think Wentz is going to really have to relearn how to be just a game manager, because that team is set up that way. That's what we asked Philip Rivers last season, and he managed to get the job done by just managing the game. You saw a few times last season where he did too much, and the team suffered for it. So as long as he can kind of take a step back, be a game manager, don't make mistakes, and rely on your defense and your running game, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah. Couple other bets here. Conference, they sit at plus 1,400, so 14-1 there, 2,500 on the Super Bowl, so 25-1 there. Do you like conference Super Bowl? Do you think this team can put themselves in that mix, in with a Buffalo, a Cleveland, a Kansas City? Let's throw Baltimore and Tennessee in there for fun.
I really think they can, but the quarterback position is just too big of a question mark for me. And if I don't feel solid about the most important position on a team in the league, it's really hard for me to feel comfortable on taking any of those bets.
Yeah. This one's a little interesting. I think I lean towards a no on it, but to reach the playoffs, a yes is a minus 160. The plus is plus 130. So you get a nice little, small little juice there to take the no. With that schedule, I don't know if I necessarily jump on it right away, but it does have me thinking probably these next 2 weeks that might be a solid bet on the no on the playoffs, because just as I could see them maybe as not a top contender for the East, but I with this schedule, I could see them, totally bottoming out, especially if Carson Wentz isn't playing football.
You meant the South, right? Not the East.
Yes, correct.
No, yeah, I feel exactly the same way you do. I just think that for a conference, there's just other teams that I like slightly better, that I feel more comfortable at the quarterback position, like I said, which is the most important position on a team. So I'm probably leaning more towards the no, but I wouldn't fault anybody for taking it.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on to the other team in this division. A team with our colleague, Dynamite David, predicted yesterday on the college football preview show at plus 110 was winning the division. I hope he does not have his mortgage on that. But anyway, Titans sit at 9 wins. They also won 11 games last year. I think we pretty much know what this team is. They added a couple guys in the draft. It added a couple free agents, Bud Dupree, most among them, to quote unquote shore up the defense. But myself is not seeing a lot of change here. I see a very bad defense. I still see a really poor secondary. Janoris Jenkins or not.
Jackrabbit, baby.
Yeah. I see a good offense. Now that's added with Julio Jones. I don't know how much he will overall add. This offense, I continue to think will be really, really good again this year. But that defense was so bad last year. I even with the upgrades at free agency, I don't know if it's really going to be that much better to put them in a status where I think they're contending for the AFC.
I mean, I get where you're coming from. I am a little taken aback by the fact that even though I've been saying that they have a really potent offense, and I kind of expect them to, I know that Julio Jones is not the Julio Jones that we're used to seeing in Atlanta, but I still think he's got plenty of left in the tank. The question is, how healthy can he stay? You said the additions of Bud Dupree. I think that helps that pass rush a little bit. You have a guy who can cover those big tight ends and as well as rush the quarterback, which in turn helps that secondary, which looked to get torched pretty much game in and game out last season. I'm not as high defensively on this team as our colleague is. I think that they're okay. I think that they improved. I just don't think the improvement is enough to be noticeable. I think the addition of Janoris Jenkins, he's more of a playmaker to me. I don't think he's a shutdown corner. He's not the type of guy that you want to put on a number one wide receiver and say, this is your guy, stick to him, because he's going to get burned. I saw it happen plenty of times when he was with the Rams, but he is a playmaker. He will make some plays, and he could definitely cause some turnovers. So I think that having a guy like Bud who could get to the quarterback probably a little better than some of the other guys they had on there last season. And the addition of a ball hawk like Janoris Jenkins, who can go after the ball, I think it makes defense better. Like I said, not much better, but better than they had last season. Now, offensively is the big question mark. Can they produce like they did last season? Because last season they were an offensive powerhouse. And if you look at the numbers, Tannehill has been one of the best quarterbacks over the last few years in the NFL. A lot of it has to do with the fact that he's got one of the best running backs in the league. So does losing his tight end and his wide receiver affect him that much? I don't know. That remains to be seen. I still expect him to be explosive offensively. The big question is going to be how can they, compete defensively?
Yeah. Jenkins is a solid corner. I think he was maybe 42nd in PFF, 43rd overall in corner play, which tells you he's a good corner to have on your roster, but he's not one of those shutdown guys. But that being said, I'm assuming Fulton's, the one who was getting burned all year last year, is still going to play in the slot, and they're probably going to have to play the rookie they drafted. First round rookie corners tend not to have a ton of success in the NFL. So, I mean,
what round was Deion Sanders drafted in?
Yes, but Deion's different. If you think fairly as Deion,
just slightly.
I'm gonna. But technically speaking, you could just ignore Jenkins and pick on the other two guys, pretty much. And the Bud Dupree, he's got that flashy pass rushing speed, but I worry a little bit. That's a lot of that Pittsburgh Steelers system. We've seen numerous, of those outside linebacker pass rushers come out of Steelers, sign big free agent deals. I don't want to say bust, but they aren't as effective in a different type of scheme. And then, 2 years later, they're getting released, end up back in Pittsburgh and end up getting a bunch of sack totals again. And I think James Harrison would be the poster boy for this. But, I guess I could see maybe marginal improvement. The other thing that, worries me a little bit, this offense is so Derrick Henry heavy. We know a lot about running backs. I think you certainly do. And the all of a sudden Todd Gurley type of drop off, who's now no longer even on a football roster currently, you don't know when it's coming. And Derrick Henry these last 3 years has had one hell of a load of carrying the football. And it just becomes one of those things. Is this sort of the year where we see a slight drop in speed, a slight drop in power, and then all of a sudden it's not quite as smooth an offensive transition? But 9 wins seems a little low for me in this 17-game season, especially in this division where you're getting the Texans twice and you're getting the Jags. And we talked about the Colts. We're either going to get good Colts or bad Colts. So I could definitely see an over here. And speaking of their schedule, it gets bad in the middle, but they open with Arizona, Seattle, Indianapolis, Jets, Jags. So, I mean, it's not easy, but you could come out of that with a winning record. Whereas, I think the Colts would be lucky to come out of it with a winning record. Now there is a stretch in there when it's Buffalo, KC, Indianapolis, Rams, Saints. That window, it might be dark times for Dynamite David. We might have him over to watch a lot of games during that 5-week stretch.
Don't forget, he wants us to fly out to LA to watch that Ram Titans.
Yes, that's exactly what I want to do. Fly out to LA to watch the Rams Titans.
Well, he told me, now I'm just taking his word on it, but he told me that Green Light was going to foot the bill for this.
Yeah, well, when you all start pulling in the numbers that make it able to foot the bill, I'll foot the bill for you all to go out to LA to watch the Rams and Titans.
This is work related, man. I mean, it's not like I don't have to go to watch the Rams. It could be any other game, but it just happens to be the Rams are in LA. The Titans are in LA that week, so let's make it happen. But but going back to your running back point, I get where you're coming from. I understand that we've seen running backs go from great to mediocre, like overnight, it seems. But just based off what I've seen, I think even if there is a drop off with Derrick Henry's play, he's been so good over the last few years that I think he could still have a good season and still have a drop off. That's how good he's been. So I'm not too concerned about that. I'm more concerned with, you don't see it a lot. It happens from time to time, but you don't see it a lot. Trading within the division. I don't know what's going on with Julio Jones. I don't know how healthy he is or how much he has left in the tank. Maybe there was a serious, disgruntled situation going on between him and the Falcons. Because for them to trade him within the division, I thought was a little odd. But I still, as far as the record goes, I still kind of think that I'm leaning more towards the over on that record, especially with the extended season.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely more bullish on the over 9 here for the Tennessee Titans than I am for the Indianapolis Colts. But I do, sort of see both these teams probably hitting around the same, 10, 11 win mark. We mentioned it, Dynamite David, loving the plus 110 for the division. Your thoughts on plus 110 to win this division?
Yeah.
Are you mortgaging the house to have the Titans win this AFC South?
Listen, as confident as I am in Dynamite's ability to pick his favorite team as a winner, I'm not as confident in picking them as a winner. I still think they'll get close. I think it's a two-team battle in this division, but I'm not as bullish as he is, so I'm probably sticking to the no.
Yeah, they are the same as the Indianapolis Colts, 14-1 to win the conference. My feelings pretty much the same as the Indianapolis Colts. It's probably not quite enough up there to entice me. 14-1 for conference, 25-1 for Super Bowl. You liking any of those?
I don't, even though I like the Titans more offensively than I do the Colts. Like you said earlier, I think the Colts are probably a more balanced team, and the Colts would make me feel more comfortable taking a bet like that, but I still wouldn't take it.
Yeah. This one's a little weird, though. I talked about maybe putting a little on the no for the Colts to reach the playoffs, but for the Titans to reach the playoffs, it's only a yes at minus 135 and plus 115. That minus 135, that's, 0.3 points lower than the Colts. And I think the Titans have a much better chance to reach, nothing to go disastrous. Whereas I can pick things for the Colts where I see things going disastrous. I think Tennessee probably is between 8 and 11 wins unless total bad things happen. So that minus 135 to reach the playoffs, I think that's pretty good value there.
Yeah, I agree with you because like we said earlier, I think that the Titans, even though the Colts have a more well-rounded team, I think the Titans have a bigger chance to make it even with things going wrong. If their ground game goes wrong, they still can rely on Tannehill and the wide receivers. If their defense plays poorly, if they can put up the type of offense they did last season, they'll be fine. If their passing game's not good, their quarterback gets hurt, something, they can rely on the run game. So I think that they have more avenues to get to the playoffs than the Colts do, even though the Colts I think are more well-balanced team.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on the Titans before we move to my darling of the AFC South?
Well, since I'm not going to go watch them live in LA, I think that's about all I've got on the Titans.
All right, we're going to move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars and the 6.5 win total. They had a porous season last year, 1 win, but that was a purpose, porous season, so they could draft the man they have at quarterback now, Trevor Lawrence. They also got Travis Etienne, bringing that Clemson prodigies together. Granted, Travis Etienne broke his foot and will not be playing this season. So that took a little bit of wind out of my sails on the love of the Jacksonville Jaguars. But we talked about it a lot last year that James Robinson was really, really good for them. So not too much of a worry to lose, that running back here. I like this Jags team. I like this Jags team offensively, I should say. I thought they were a little spunky last year. offensively. You got Marvin Jones, you got Latavius Chenault, you got DJ Shark playing wide receiver. We mentioned James Robinson. Trevor Lawrence is in there. He's one of those guys who I think will come in and be really, really good. Now, offensive line play, probably not the best. And they, due to having a bunch of first-round picks that they used on weapons, they did not get a lot of more depth on there. But they have the previous couple of years drafted some offensive linemen. So I think they're hoping more there are leaps amongst the offensive linemen that were already there. But I do like this team offensively. And I don't think the defense is good overall, but I think they got a couple playmakers out there. Allen being one of them out of Kentucky. I love that defensive end, linebacker hybrid. Miles Jack is still there. Rashard Jenkins is still there. So, I mean, there are a handful of players on the defensive side of it. I mean, overall, it is not a defense that, is going to be elite, but I think there's some life in these Jags, and they won't be trying to tank this season. And Urban Meyer's in there, so that will be fun too. What do you make of the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Well, let's just say this, okay? We said it, I think, a few times last season. They're spunky, I believe is the term we used. And I think that's kind of what they'll be this year. I'm not as high on them as you are. I'm never really super high on rookie quarterbacks, at least not in the beginning until they show something. But there's obviously a lot of hype behind the quarterback, and there's a lot of hype behind the coaching staff. So there's a positive there. Even if they can at least – we saw them be competitive last season, even as bad as they were competitive. So if they can – you named a few guys. They got Marvin Jones, Dorsett. I believe they brought in Carlos Hyde to add some depth to that running back position, which was already pretty good to begin with. I think they're okay. I mean, I'm not ready to, put a second mortgage on or anything like that, but
you should be.
Oh gosh, you're gonna be Jaguars this season, or just like we're Dolphins last year.
I'm getting my Keenan McCardell jersey out. It's being worn with pride, baby.
Well, you go ahead and wear it, and we'll see how the end of the season treats you.
I think I have a Fred Taylor one too somewhere. So
I'm sure you do.
Pride.
I'm sure you do. I wouldn't be surprised. I've seen what your closet looks like, and let's just say that you've got plenty to choose from. So, but I don't know, man. The Jaguars, to me, I think it's a team that's, probably in the later stages of a rebuild scenario, just because they did add a lot of weapons, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I would have liked to have seen him shore up that offensive line a little bit more. I feel like, a lot of the game is battle within the trenches. And when you have a weak offensive line, not that they're weak, and I'm not trying to, down talk them, but
I will say the inside of that, Linder and Can, the center and the guard, the right guard, are pretty solid offensive linemen. Now, that being said, the two tackles were really, really bad last year, and that's what's a little scary, especially for a rookie quarterback. I think we'll get to the Bears at some point, and that offensive line.
Wait, are you actually planning on talking about the Bears at all this season?
Well, I am very curious about how this Bears offensive line looks, but that's I think that's next week we get into the northern side of things.
Yeah, the wife's going to be happy about that. But seriously, though, I see the upside, okay, and I see why people are excited about it. It's a very young team with a lot of talent, a lot of potential, and I just, like I said, I like to see it for at least a few games before I start getting, hyped up. What's the over/under on this team for wins?
They were 6.5, I believe. Yes, 6.5 wins.
I know it doesn't seem like a lot, especially with the extended season, but you think about it, they're going to have to face the Colts twice. They're going to have to face the Titans twice. And granted, they do face the Texans, the Texans twice, but we saw those were some pretty tough competitive games last season. So there's no guarantee that they're going to win any of those. I think it's going to be tough, man. I'm probably leaning more towards the under, but I still wouldn't take a bet simply because if they played really well, and manage to win 7 games, I wouldn't be shocked. But
Yeah.
I also wouldn't be completely distraught if they didn't win 7 games.
Yeah. I think the potential's there. I definitely think they're going to go over that 6.5 win mark. And, if something happens to Lawrence, as of right now, Gardner Minshew is still the backup quarterback. And, that's a fine backup quarterback to have. Now, if he makes it to the backup quarterback spot before one of these teams makes a trade for him before the season starts, I don't know. But anyway, to have Minshew backing up in case Lawrence gets hurt, it's solid there. And I just think this team's capable of making a leap. We talked about last year, they were spunky. If you look at their projected win total now, that's getting into some very dark math, and we don't all love that, but their projected win total in 2020 was 4.5. So, they won 1 game. They were in and around 5 wins, mostly because they were tanking a bunch of games, and games they probably could have won if we weren't trying to lose games on purpose. I think the Jags would have been, around that 4 to 6 win mark. You give an extra game into the season, you think the offense will be even better than it was last year. A couple leaps for those young guys on defense. And I just think they can hit this, 7, 8, if things go really right, 9 win mark. If Lawrence turns out to be really, really good instead of just solid. But I think there's a chance that Lawrence might turn out to be really, really good. So I really, really am bullish on this over 6.5 here.
You see, all the things you're saying make a lot of sense to me. And like I said, to me, the potential for them to have a better team than last season is there. And, we said it, the team wasn't horrible. They were in games last year that they could have easily won if it wasn't for, like you said, them trying to tank. But, it's still a new team. It's still a new formula, just because they've improved the players on the offense doesn't mean that the offense is the same offense. It's a different offense now. It's a different head coach. It's a different game plan, different, scheme, things like that. So again, it would definitely take me a couple weeks to just kind of get a feel for what the team is doing. And then I'd feel either more confident in either going yay or nay. So that's where
it helps to open against the Texans as well.
Oh, that's a big boost.
I probably get to gloat after week 1.
Unless somehow the Texans managed to pull that one off.
Yeah. I guess we sort of didn't bring up the story. We've sort of just talked about the new coach. We probably should go a little bit more in depth. Urban Meyer comes over out of the college ranks, has been one of the best college football coaches probably really ever. He makes a transition into the NFL. How do you think he will do into the NFL?
It's I don't know. I mean, I understand that he's one of the great minds when it comes to football, regardless whether it's collegiate or professional. He's definitely one of the brighter minds when it comes to football. But we've also seen really good coaches that try to transition to the NFL that just don't do well. And we've also seen coaches that, probably weren't projected to do so well, a la Pete Carroll, and they come out and they just, dominate their division. So with the number one drafted quarterback, first overall pick, he's got his security blanket with him, and he's got one of the top collegiate coaches, trying to set him up for success. I mean, it all lines up. If the stars line up for them, then they're probably going to have a good season. But again, to me, there's too many ifs, and I'd like to see, kind of a scheme and game plan in motion before I feel confident either way. But again, if they pull off 7 wins this season, I wouldn't be shocked because the potential's there. But if they got less than 7 wins, that also wouldn't shock me, because I think that even though they've got a lot of weapons that are young and have a lot of potential, they're still a rebuilding team.
Yeah. I will say Urban's very calculated, and he could have had a lot of other NFL jobs, the previous handful of seasons. And, we put a lot on these coaches, and I do think coaches make a difference, but also who makes a lot of difference is who's playing quarterback and who all your players are. We all thought Mike McCarthy was a genius, and it helps to have Aaron Rodgers back there making you look like a genius. So I do think it helps that he was strategic. He found the spot. He has Trevor Lawrence. He can build with Lawrence. He didn't take the Washington football job. He didn't take the Dallas job. I think I'm going to go through every team in the NFC East because I think he was up for every one of those jobs and pretty much turned him down, which probably was a pretty smart decision. But I don't think Urban, he has so much of an ego that I don't think he would take a job where he didn't think he was going to be successful because he's a little like Larry Brown in that when he's there, it's really, really good. But that fire burns out in a quick set of things. So in 3 or 4 years, when he starts going insane, we'll know. But anyway, a couple things here. Division plus 900. I will say I have already put a bet on this. I put a bet on it actually even before I sent you these lines. I have 12-1 to win the division. I think there's opportunity there. We mentioned the Colts completely dying if, Wentz goes out. If we get that, then it's just the Titans up there, and we're in a head-to-head division up there. And I think 11-1, good value in essentially the Texans. Will get to them are no chance in ever life of leaving the basement and maybe to win a game. But I like the value at 9-1. I like 12-1 even better, but 9-1 I still think is really, really good value to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather get the 12-1 if I could still get it somehow. But yeah, like you said, I think the value's there, and I wouldn't blame anybody for taking a chance on that. For me, even if the odds were to drop a little bit, I'd still like to see a little bit of progression on the field. Once I saw it, then I'd probably feel a little more comfortable in putting my PlayStation 5 money down and trying to double it up at least.
Yeah, you can get you 3 of them, 4 of them.
Yeah, if I could find them.
Or a very fancy 6K HD camera that would look very nice in the studio.
I don't know if you'd want that, though. I don't think you'd want this T-shirt to be in high quality right now.
Conference 66-1. I'm not even that bold. So
you sure you didn't put money on this one?
I did not put money on the 66-1 to win the conference, nor the 125-1 to win the Super Bowl. Those both seem like a little bit of a leap in the first year, but I did put plus 350 to reach the playoffs. Yes, I thought that was pretty good value as well to be able to sneak into the playoffs, getting almost 4-1 there. Minus 450 is a no. So I liked the plus 350 and the plus 900 to reach the playoffs, and a little bet on there to win the division if things break really, really right.
Plus 350. I think I've got a few dollars in my pocket. I might need you to get on one of your sites and invest this for me.
We can both. You can wear Jimmy Smith. I can wear Keenan McCardle, and we can just wear it around the grocery store to anchor the dynamite.
Oh yeah, that's gonna go over well.
All right, we do have to preview this team next. The Houston Texans are at 4 wins. I guess we have to talk about them. I can guarantee you their defense is going to be absolutely porous. I'm not sure the offense is going to be much better. And I am pretty much assuming there will be no Deshaun Watson this season. So it's Tyrod Taylor taking the snaps at quarterback. So what do you make of this Houston Texans team?
I think that they're probably just going to go ahead and count this season as a wash. I don't think they're planning on really showing up. I think I can't even say that they're banking on the draft, because what do they have to look forward to? I mean, they've done a really poor job as far as personnel, draft picks, trades, salary cap. They've done a really poor job. And I think that they were very lucky that they had committed players on that team for such a long time, the likes of J.J. Watt and things like that. because even Watson was trying to get out before this whole situation with him,
Now I think the Texans want out. Now everybody is like, pass.
It's crazy how, you go from being one of the hottest up and coming players in the league that's probably very coveted, highly coveted. And, one incident that I will say it's still alleged because
I think it was more like 22 incidents, but
okay,
the
cool.
same of
22 alleged incidents. I don't know if I could use air quotes when I say 22 alleged incidents, but things pop up and all of a sudden nobody wants to touch you, and it's interesting. So we'll see what happens. I don't think that this team is going to go very far. My hopes for them aren't very high. Like I said, I think that they did a really poor job of managing just about every aspect of that football team. So I don't see good things for them in the future, in the near future at the very least. But it's football, man. We've seen crazier things happen.
Yeah. Any love for the running back graveyard of David Johnson, Mark Ingram combo?
And don't forget Lindsey too.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that they're probably going to run these three guys into the ground. I did catch a little bit of the preseason game that they played the last time, and I got to say, Mark Ingram looked pretty good. He looked like he still has some juice left in that tank. So, I think it's going to be a really
Was he running versus the flag football team for the other side in the preseason?
He might have. Okay, or maybe it was the halftime show. I can't quite remember. I was half asleep when it was on. But listen, man, it's a professional football team, and I'm not going to discount them just yet, although I am very tempted to because I do think they're going to do very poor.
Yeah, and I don't think it helps that everyone will probably be gunning to get a win here on their schedule for them. So I guess we didn't even mention they hired a head coach who doesn't have any head coaching experience, really even any offensive coordinating experience. He was the passing coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens the last couple of years. So I don't know. I shouldn't laugh.
Listen.
Team is really, really bad.
I had no experience making T-shirts, and somehow I managed to make this awesome T-shirt. So I mean, it's possible.
I hate to break it to you, but 5-year-old girls sort of figure out how to make their own T-shirts. So I don't think the
fair enough.
The ability is all that hard to achieve with 2 or 3 practices.
Listen, the shots have been fired, man. You don't need to take it any further, okay?
All right. So the number sits at 4. I am very, very under this number. You could probably give me a 20-game season, and I could not foresee 4+ wins on this team. Where are you sitting?
It pains me to say it, but I'm on the under also. It's just now I'm not super confident because, like I said, it's the NFL. Anything could happen. This team could show up and play for one another and kind of say, like, you know what, everyone's expecting us to be a train wreck. Let's go out and prove them wrong. And it could happen. They could win a few games. They could win 5 games. Now, it's just so hard for me to really take an under at 4 games with an extended season. I mean, it sounds crazy, but yeah, I'm leaning into the under. Yeah.
I'm this one is one I'm bullish on. This one and the Jets, I'm very bullish on those unders because I think those teams will be battling. We haven't gotten to the Lions yet either, as the bottom spots of the world football. But I guess we can go through this. They are.
Oh gosh.
They are 150 to 1 to win the conference. Is there any love there?
I just can't bring myself to do it. I mean, even if I was a degenerate gambler that was looking for one of those long shots just to kind of put some bank in my pocket, I don't think I could drop $10 on it, to be honest with you. It's just
they are 300 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. Okay.
Okay, maybe I will drop $10 on that one. No, I can't. I can't do it. I just, I feel bad. All I can really say is if you're a Texans fan, I was a St. Louis Rams fan, so keep your head up. There's brighter days ahead. Maybe in the far, far future.
In 25 years. All
Hey,
right.
stop throwing salt on the wound.
Okay, we're out of the AFC South and we'll move to the NFC South and we'll kick it off with the Super Bowl champs here. They bring everybody back pretty much. So it's a rego. Their over-under sits at 12 wins. What do you make of this? The defense will be very, very good again. I thought last year the offense was sort of inefficient and not great, but they sort of found their way at things. And once that defense started to get in flying, they became a really, really good team. So what do you make of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I said it a lot last season. They have a lot of really, key players at just about every position. They're really stacked. And it seemed like it took a while for them to kind of get to that point where we all expected them to be. We all kind of wanted it to happen like instantaneously. And that's just not how it happens. It happens every now and then. But for the most part, chemistry takes a little while to build. And we saw that happen with this team. It took them a little while to get to the point where they were, NFL champs. Now, they did resign basically every single starter from both offense and defense last year, if I'm correct.
Yes. Yeah, everybody's back. The whole defense is back. The whole offense is back. Everyone returns. They got a couple draft picks. Tyron out of Washington, the defensive end, will just add another, power pass rusher there. And, they didn't really add anybody in free agency, but they essentially re-signed, White and David both could have taken huge, money. They put Godwin on the franchise deal. So, they have him for solid money. They re-upped Antonio Brown. I will mention Gronkowski coming back, but that's more a friendship roster spot than a talent roster spot anymore. But anyway, this team's just back. I don't really know what to say. We probably just need to talk. Do we think they can win the conference? Do we think they can win the Super Bowl? Because we know what this team is and we know what it's going to be. Really, the only negative you could probably say is the running back positions, Jones, Fournette, not outstanding, but, that doesn't really factor here. And then Brady, he will be even older. Can he get through another season without getting, banged up, hurt? It seems his injuries seem to be on the lower half than the upper half for, a quarterback. That's really a good thing, because once shoulders and backs start going and necks, that's when you really start to lose power on your throws. You can get away with knees, and ankles and feet because you're basically a statue in there anyway. So anything on the Tampa Bay Bucks before we get into Super Bowl and conference stuff?
No, I mean, I just think that it's hard for, even your average fan to not look at the Buccaneers and just kind of assume that these are the Super Bowl favorites. They basically re-signed everybody from the Super Bowl winning team. And even though we'd like to say that they didn't really get going until later on in the season last year, they only lost 5 games. I mean, they're still a solid team. And I think that they're going to do great. I'm done questioning Brady at all, completely. I mean, the guy can come in with one leg and I still wouldn't question him. I'm done questioning him. I just want him to, if he has to win one more to retire, win one more and go. I'm done with Brady being the guy, the kid who wins at everything. But yeah, like you said, I think when it comes to the Bucks, it's really, can they win the Super Bowl? Will they win the conference? I think those are the only 2 questions that we can really ask about this team.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into that. Division wise, they are minus 200 to win this division. Before we get into the other teams in here, I'm curious what you think in this division. Everyone seems to sort of be we don't know anything about the Saints. We don't know really what the Falcons are going to be, and we don't know really what the Carolina Panthers are going to be. But I think we could all project that all three of these teams could be good. So it seems at minus 200, that's an awful lot of money. 2-1 to risk to have them win the division. They didn't win the division last year. Now, granted, that was the Saints who had Drew Brees back there, who's no longer there. But Brees missed like 5 games. He missed like 5 games the year before, too. So the Saints have shown they can win without Brees. I think the Falcons will be better without Dan Quinn ruining their life. And we haven't gotten to him yet. But I'm a big Carolina Panthers guy. So it's a Panthers-Jag year. Woo, 96 expansion teams.
You're in for a painful year, buddy.
All right. So minus 200 on the division for Tampa Bay Bucks. What are you thinking there?
First of all, I don't like taking anything that goes into the negative. That's just me. I like to play it really safe when it comes to my gambling. But even so,
you like to win what you put in.
Yeah, at least, But when I look at this division, there's one returning quarterback, and that's Matt Ryan. The other 2 teams have new quarterbacks. One of them doesn't even know who their quarterback's going to be.
Well, I was going to say the Saints did name Jameis the quarterback today.
So, was it official?
It's official. Week 1 starter, Jameis Winston.
That makes me happy. We'll get into it, but that makes me happy, and I'll talk about it later. But as far as that minus 200, I'm not touching it, man. So many things can go wrong, injuries, and yes, they're loaded. The Bucs are loaded, but all it takes is Brady going down, and this team is completely different. So I'm not touching that one.
Yeah, I guess we didn't get into the over under on the win total 12. I'm not doing a bet on this. I automatically anything over like 11 wins, extra game or not, I don't touch that. 12 wins and you're pushing, that means they have to hit 13 for you to win your money. Predicting a team to win 13 games, I'm just not for. So I lean under here, but I'm a no-go on this. Where are you sitting?
I'm there with you again. I'm a little more conservative when it comes to those over-unders. Anything over 10 gives me a little bit of pause because, like you said, you have to win 11 to get money. Otherwise, you're just pushing. And anything can happen. There's so many variables in the NFL.
Well, there's nothing like a 5-month hold on your money and then getting it returned to you.
Yeah, or losing it. It's just, no, I'm not touching that one. That's just too much of a gamble for my conservative self.
Yeah. All right. We'll get into these two. These are the interesting one. Conference sits at plus 290 here in the NFC to win this conference. I think I tried to count it up. Probably about 4 teams that you legit would say they can win the conference. Right now. So, almost 3-1. That's not that awful of odds, but I'm curious your take on the plus 290 conference wise. I do factor in it is extremely difficult to go to back-to-back Super Bowls. And luck sometimes doesn't break your way. Sometimes the Packers go for it on 4th and goal from the 5-yard line to win the game.
Yeah, listen, like I said a little while ago, there's just too many variables for me to feel comfortable with taking a bet like that. That, and I'm a Ram fan. So,
they were one of the ones I had in the 4.
Yeah, I know. And there's probably another NFC West team you've got on there, if not 2. So, I mean, listen, yes, I think that the odds of winning a conference compared to winning a Super Bowl repeating is what I'm trying to say are higher, but I still don't feel comfortable about it just because I think that there's a lot of talent in the NFC. Even with all departures and retirements and injuries that we've seen, I still think the NFC in general as a conference is pretty well stacked. So it gives me a little bit of pause, and I don't want to take into account even, injuries that would be such a detrimental, circumstance for this team. So I'm not touching that to win the conference, but I wouldn't blame anybody who did.
Yeah. Super Bowl 7-1 here. I made my list on this one. I was being very, very kind, and I ended up with about 9 teams. I think I was legit hovering about 6 that I really felt could win the Super Bowl, and then good things happen, and I got to about 9 that I thought legit could win the Super Bowl. So 7-1 once again isn't awful, but it's a little under what I think, and factoring in back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, I'm just not totally for that. But 7-1 is a lot of money if you think this team really is legit elite above everyone else in football.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, again, I wouldn't blame anybody for taking that type of bet. I'm just more conservative when it comes to my gambling, like I've said. And it's really hard for me to picture a team winning back-to-back Super. But then again, who was the last quarterback to win back-to-back Super Bowls?
It probably was Brady.
Exactly. So I wouldn't fault anybody for taking a gamble on that. I personally am not.
But I do think that was like 20 years ago. It was very early Brady.
I thought it was like 35 years ago.
Playoffs, minus 650 is a yes, plus 450 is a no. How much are you willing to really delve deep and go into it? Because I think they could probably make the playoffs, but minus 650 is quite a price to pay. $6.50 to win one. So
I don't know if you are familiar with Dragon Ball series.
I know what it is.
Okay, well, there's this character Goku who happens to have this stick, this staff. It's a magic staff, and it stretches and it extends like very, very long when he needs it to. I wouldn't touch those bets with that stick.
But it's going to win. I'm pretty much assured they will make the playoffs.
You think so until somebody goes down with an injury, and then another guy goes down with an injury, and then you have somebody with COVID and somebody with the Delta variant, and there's too many variables, man. I just don't feel comfortable. I think that that spread it's way too much. I'm putting up too much of my money to get very little in return. I don't like making bets like that.
Gabbert is a backup quarterback. You're fine in the hands of Blaney.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm definitely banking my money on him taking us to the promised land.
I didn't say Super Bowl. I said playoffs.
Hey, listen, that's one of the whatever. Let's just move on.
All right, we'll move on to the upcoming news of the day. I did mention it. Jameis Winston has been announced as the Week 1 starter for these New Orleans Saints. They lost a lot of defensive guys. Their number sits at 9. Jameis can throw the ball further than Breeze. Who he throws it to is always really the question here. So what do you make of these New Orleans Saints? Are they going to continue to contend in the NFC, or are they going to fall back to the pack a little bit here?
Listen, I'm going to double up on what I said last season. Okay. The squint is gone. Okay. He had LASIK surgery. I'm a believer. Okay. I think that Winston's the answer. And I think that he's going to lead the Saints into the playoffs. But in all seriousness, though, I think that they're better off with Winston as a starter. This is not to downplay, the skill set of Hill or anything like that. But I think that Hill serves better as a gadget player. He's very good. He's very versatile. He's like a Swiss Army knife. You can use him in so many different spots that I think that keeping him locked into the quarterback position really limits his ability to contribute to this team. So I don't understand why this didn't happen sooner. I think that Winston is clearly the best option for them to be as far as starting quarterback goes. You mentioned the fact that they lost a lot of weapons on defense. They also lost, a couple weapons on offense. Drew Brees, obviously, with the retirement. And then you have, I believe, Jared Cook is gone now.
Yes.
Whether you love him or hate him, with a good quarterback, Jared Cook can make some plays, man. He made some really big plays last season. And he's also a very big target. So, there's something to say about those big security blankets. All that being said, to me, unless the Falcons see some sort of huge improvement, which we'll get into right now.
And the Panthers.
and the Panthers. I think this is still a two-team race to win this division. And I think the Saints probably just made it a little bit tougher by getting my boy LASIK man as the starter.
Yeah. Honestly, I think they'll be fine on offense. I think they'll be all right. Jameis probably still is going to turn the ball over. We'll see how long a leash he gets with those turnovers. I mean, I don't think you can go in completely opposite directions in Drew Brees, who literally never turned the ball over, to Jameis, who every third series is forcing a pass somewhere it probably shouldn't.
That was before the LASIK. He can see where he's throwing it now.
But I do think the offense will be, fine. If Michael Thomas comes in healthy and focused, that's sort of a underlining thing as well. You remove Michael Thomas, then I'm getting a little bit more nervous about this offensive weapons. Then you're pretty much just totally relying on Kamara here. But I am very nervous about, all these defensive guys. You lost Hendrickson, you lost Rankins, the aforementioned Janoris Jenkins. It just is a lot of guys that they sort of counted on.
A lot of guys that made big plays last season.
Yeah, it has me very scared. They still have Tuttle and Davenport out there who are really good defensive linemen. So I want to see their defense before I totally go full bore that the Saints are going to be good. I'm looking at it more like they might hover around 500, more in the there is no 500 now that we're playing 17 games like idiots.
It's okay. I completely understand where you were coming from, so it doesn't matter.
I guess 500, 9-7, or
that's close to 500.
Yes.
I mean, I'm no mathematician or anything, but that's close.
Yes, I don't know. Whatever is in and around the possible new 500 in the 17 game season. Freaking uneven schedules. Anyway, that has me nervous. And that's sort of where the number sits at 9. I think it's probably in and around there. I don't see this team really anywhere near like the 11 win range. I could see him maybe getting to that 10, but going over 10, I would be very surprised. So I'd lean a little under here just because I'm really, really cautious about this defense.
Now, I don't have the actual spreadsheet you sent me with the totals, but what was it at 10, you said?
No, it's at 9.
9?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Now I'm not going to actually lay a bet down or anything, but I don't think 10 wins is too crazy. And a lot of it is because I really have a newfound respect for Sean Payton. And I've never been a Sean Payton fan. I always thought that he was very brash and abrasive, and he really rubbed me the wrong way. But I saw how he inspired his team last season, regardless of whether Michael Thomas was in the lineup or not, regardless of whether Drew Brees was in the lineup or not, when they didn't know who their starting quarterback was going to be. There were so many different aspects that came into play that really showed me Sean Payton's leadership. So I do, even though I still can say, very confidently that I don't like Sean Payton, I do respect his ability to be a leader for that team. So I could see them winning 10 games. I honestly, I think that they could do it. Just because, like I said, I think it's going to be a 2-team race in this division. And if it turns out to be that way, I could see them getting 10 wins.
Yeah, I could see them getting to 10 wins if things broke right. But I think
they won 12 last season.
I know, but they were really good last season. But I'm just, the defense really does have me nervous that they go back. I don't know, it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, that middling era, right after Drew Brees won the Super Bowl, where they, their defense sort of lagged behind and they were having to play all these shootout games. I worry a little bit per Jameis Winston style, which would fit. He gets into a lot of these shootout games. We get a lot of 300 yards, 3 touchdown, 3 pick, 35-28 type games. the Saints really had sort of controlled that and learned how to sort of control games and protect their defense and have their defense play really well. And I'm just a little bit concerned that maybe we go back to those shootout games where they weren't a bad team. They just weren't quite at, Super Bowl contending level type team.
Listen, I think all your concerns are completely warranted. I completely understand where you're coming from. Let me just ask you a question, not to get off topic here, but if you could pick between last year's Tennessee Titans defense and this year's Saints defense, which defense would you take?
Oh, I'd go Saints. They still have, a handful of guys on there that
and I'm not saying that, the Saints offense is going to be what the Titans offense was last year, but if they can be competent enough to at least, they do have some stars. They do have some weapons. If they can win some games offensively, I think their defense is not horrible, and it'll be enough to get them to, like I said, over that uneven 500 mark that we keep talking about.
Yeah. The other thing, because we haven't gotten to the other two teams in this division, I'm a little bullish on both the next two teams that we're going to get to. So, when two rise, someone is falling. Yeah. And I'm not making it be Tampa Bay. So that leaves one person falling out of that group. And I think it might be the Saints. So you're probably a little less bullish on a couple of the next two teams we're about to get to. So.
I'm pretty sure I am.
All right. Division-wise, plus 300. Coming from what you think, that's probably not that bad a bet if you think the Falcons and Carolina are going to be down and their only contender is Tampa, and they won the division last year. So I could definitely see pretty decent value in that plus 300 there for the Saints.
Yeah, there's decent value. The question is, how confident do you feel about it playing out the way that I kind of laid it out?
Yes.
Which I'm sure most people wouldn't feel super confident about it.
Yeah. Division or conference wise, 18-1 to win the conference. I'm a definite no-go there, even at that high number for the Saints, considering it was under 10 last year and the previous couple of years before that. But I'm a no-go at 18-1. I didn't even put them in my, legit conference contender status. I do think they have a good shot at making a playoff, but I'm a no-go on conference contender.
Yeah, that's exactly where I stand. I think they have a really good shot at making the playoffs. I don't see them winning the conference or even going any further than that. So I don't want to make it seem like, I'm jumping on the Saint bandwagon here. I just think that they're going to be better.
You're already on the Giants bandwagon.
Oh, God, no. That's you, buddy. You're the New York. That's
I'm on the Jags bandwagon.
Oh, you change it up week to week.
And probably the Carolina bandwagon. We're getting to that.
There's only one train that I'm riding, baby, and you can see it right behind me.
Also, I would very much love to have the Saints get into the playoffs because I feel a 6-pick Jameis playoff game just waiting to happen, and that feels like free money.
Listen, I hope one of my really good friends, David, not our David, but my friend David, he's a huge Saints fan. And unfortunately, he had to sit there and watch my Rams play his team when the Rams were able to advance. So I don't want to see him go through that again. But either way, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah. All right. Super Bowl 40-1. If we don't believe the conference, I doubt we're believing the Super Bowl. This one's a little bit more interesting. Playoffs is a slight favorite here at minus 105, double juice. So you're minus 115, no, minus 105, yes. So I think that pretty much sums up this team in full. No one has a clue what we're getting.
Except for me.
Except for you, who thinks they're going to the playoffs and winning 11 games.
No, that's a 10. That's a 10.
I have you at 11.
No, you play it back. I think it's 10.
We'll be playing these numbers back that I've written down at the end of the season.
Oh, you better have written 10.
All right. We'll move on here to the Atlanta Falcons. No Julio Jones, so pretty much the last one left out of that Super Bowl team is Matt Ryan. But I'm not really all that worried about the offensive side of things for them. They draft Kyle Pitts, who will be really, really good receiving weapon. Calvin Ridley had already sort of taken over as Julio Jones's, number one status. I really liked Russell Gage last year. I thought he was really, really explosive. So, and they bring in Mike Davis, who is not a fun, exciting running back, but he is the type of running back that will grind you to a fun, solid 1,000-yard season. So offensively, I think they will be just fine. But the question, per the question for the Falcons the last 3 or 4 years, defensively, they drafted Richie Grant to come in. He'll probably be playing safety for them out of Central Florida. They brought in Harmon to take over at the other safety spot. The corners and the tackles sort of remain the same. Same with the linebackers. So do they get anything out of this defense? Yes or no?
I don't know. This team is one of those teams that has me a little perplexed because we saw them really light it up offensively in the beginning of the year last season, and defensively they were nowhere to be found, which is why we kept, kind of poking fun at Dan Quinn about, oh, here's this defensive genius and he can't even put up a defense on the field. And then it seemed like there was a complete turnaround with that team where the offense couldn't get anything going. And defensively, they were really, keeping teams, in there. It's like, I don't know what to expect from this team. It's very Jekyll and Hyde to me. I do think that the Julio Jones thing impacts them, but maybe not negative, not in a negative way.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to see a talent like that leave and then say like, oh, how is that not going to affect them in a negative way? Well, like you said it earlier, Gage and Ridley. Were they were both.
And then they bring in Pitts. So, I mean, the offense, I don't worry too much about.
We were both really high on Pitts when it came to a draft. So I think there's a lot of talent that I think the upside is really high for that offense. I'm not concerned about the offense. If that defense can play like they did towards the end of last season, then maybe they'll make some noise. But I just don't think that they're quite ready to take that next step yet. I just don't know if Matt Ryan is going to be the long-term answer for that team. He's very skilled. He's very talented. He's obviously led them to, numerous, playoff appearances, but I just don't know. I don't know what to expect from this team.
Yeah, I'm a little torn here. I will say I do think they will end up being probably the second or third best team in this division. A couple things that are interesting here. They bring over essentially the Tennessee Titans offensive and defensive coordinator. One is their head coach. One takes the defensive coordinator job.
They did great last year.
Yeah, they were really dynamite on the defensive side of things.
No pun intended.
Per everything else that sort of fits this Falcons team, will be able to score points, won't be able to stop anybody. But I will say towards the end of the year last year, their defense got a little better. They started to play, a little bit better of defensive football. Now, you don't know how much of that is, just into the season games that, you're don't playing matter. Teams that don't care. You don't really care. You're playing out the string. So, you don't know how much quite to read out of that. The other thing that, concerns me a little bit about the Falcons, their line's not bad, but Alex Mack left. They're, probably one of the top 5 or 6 centers in the football. So there's a new center under there. They're going to play a rookie at guard. The 2 outside guys are pretty solid and steady. So, the tackles are good, but maybe a little bit weak on that inside, which might could give an old quarterback like Matt Ryan a little bit of the jittery legs there. I
mean, not to cut you off, but even a guy like, Hooper, who they lost during the offseason.
Yeah.
He's not, I still think that Pitts is an upgrade at the tight end position,
but he's not that kind of tight end that really comes in and, blocks for he's a offensive machine type.
Yeah, exactly. So
not to say he can't, he's a very large man, but you don't want him blocking. You want him receiving.
Correct. And even if you do put him back there to block, we still haven't seen him actually go up against NFL competition in an actual game. So we don't know how he's going to hold up. But like you said, you don't want to put him in that position. You want him out there as a weapon. So even small little alterations to the lineup like that probably will take effect. So it's interesting. I think it's going to be interesting to watch in the long run how it all plays out.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, I don't love looking at schedules, but sometimes you take a peek and see what's there early on. And we mentioned the brutal schedule of the Colts. The Falcons are on the complete opposite side of things. They open with the Eagles at home. They have that tough game at Tampa, but then they have the Giants, Washington, Jets in their first 5. So, I mean, if they're playing well to start the season, they could very easily start off, 4-1, and one of those is a division game. So,
I see 2-3 there, but that's just me.
Oh yeah, I forgot you're a lover of the Giants.
No,
you and your Daniel Jones have them running away with things.
I just think that some of those teams are not drastically improved, but they're better off than they were last season, and they held on, against I would say same level type of competition, which I think would probably be, similar for the Falcons going up against either the Giants or the Washington football team.
So does this make Dynamite David a NFC Falcons fan because all his Tennessee people are now coaching the Falcons?
Now,
technically, Atlanta is just as close as Nashville.
I can't officially say that that's a yes, but I think I saw him wearing a Falcons jersey before he was headed out to the gym today.
I thought maybe he was wearing an Arthur Smith polo.
And he was rocking the mustache too.
All right. So the Falcons sit at 7.5 wins. So I'm trying to do my math on the 500 type of thing here. That's right in and around 500, a little less than 500, I suppose. 8 wins, that would make them 8-9, I guess. That sounds very weird. But can the Falcons get to 8 wins?
I think they can. And now I'm not super confident. Again, a lot of it for me is going to depend on how the defense starts the year off. If the defense can start the year off the way they ended last season, then I think they can, because I don't think they're going to struggle offensively too much. It's going to take some getting used to, like not having certain people there and the new blocking schemes that they're going to set up. But I think they can. I'm not super confident like you. I'm not I'm not going to go all in on the Falcons this year, but I think they can pull it off.
Yeah. I'm going to hedge slightly over, but I'm not in love with it. I don't see a lot. Yeah, I know. I'm in love with the next part of this bet. The over under. I could very easily see this team win 5 games and blow 6 games, and they probably should have an expected win of 13 and have 5. So
how many of those games did they lose last year?
Well, I think last year. I think the last 4 years, starting from the Super Bowl on. So I lean over, but it wouldn't be anything I love. The thing I do like is division bet. They're 9-1. So, if you think they're hitting around, 8-9 wins, that's probably 1 or 2 wins off the Bucks. And if things go really, really right, that division's sitting right there. It 9-1 just seems like really good value. If I was making a bet, I would pass on the over under and just take that 9-1 to win the division for me.
Yeah, the value is definitely there. Unfortunately for me, a very conservative gambler, I already said that the Saints were probably going to win 10 games. And I already said
they're only getting 3-1 there.
I know. And I already said that the Bucks were going to win that division. So if I follow my own, logic here, that means that even if the Falcons have a really good season, they're still going to end up in 3rd and slightly below that mark. So, but it like you said, it's got really good odds.
Yeah. Conference odds 66-1. No, I do not think they can probably win the conference. I know you do. But they did once make a run for a Super Bowl. But 66-1, not in love with, and 125-1 to win the Super Bowl.
Dude,
Technically
this
speaking, they should have won the Super Bowl once in the last 6 years. So I guess if you really want it, you can probably go after it. But I'm a pass on that one as well.
No, you're not. Dude, this is our preview show. Okay, this doesn't count. Just come clean. Let us know what you really think. Okay, because off the air, you told me that you really wanted to take this bet. You told me how high you were on it.
I am high on 2 bets on the Falcons, the 9-1 division, and this one as well. Reach the playoffs is plus 222. I do really like that value. I definitely think they probably will be in the mix for a playoff spot. So plus 222 on a yes on a playoff spot. I really, really do like minus 275 on a no, but 220 for a playoff spot. I definitely think they will be at least contending for one of those last spots in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it again. A lot of things have to go right. The stars have to align.
The defense
for them.
will have to be improved.
Yes, and I guess we'll definitely know within the first few games of the season, based off that little 5-game stretch. I think
when they melt a 26-point lead to Philly on the opening weekend.
Yeah, and then take losses to the Giants,
Joe Flacco,
and then the Washington football team. Yeah, we'll know then.
All right, we'll move on to
your favorite team.
My favorite team, the Carolina
Panthers.
7.5 wins is their number. They go into the second season with Matt Rule at quarterback. Joe Brady returns as the offensive coordinator. Really, really must say, I'm very bullish on this team. I think they will be sneaky in the mix. I'm more bullish on them than I am the Jaguars. There is one little question mark with this team.
What is it?
Well, it happens to be the quarterback position.
You love the quarterback.
Sam Darnold takes over for the Carolina Panthers at quarterback. He was not very good with the Jets. I guess the question will be, was it the Jets or was it Sam Darnold or was it both? Defensively, I think they will be much improved. They bring in AJ Bouye to play that corner spot. Shaq Thompson sits there at the linebacker spot. I just think this team will be a solid defensive team. We mentioned it early in the season, probably the first 10. I think they started to wear down. They were in a lot of games. Christian McCaffrey returns. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrence Marshall Jr. At receivers, really, really good stuff. So I'm really bullish. I really like this team. I think their line's pretty solid as well. So I like this team. What are your thoughts on the Carolina Panthers?
I was really high on this team last season. I don't think anybody defended the Panthers more than I did. I was in love with Teddy Two Gloves. I thought that him being a game manager with McCaffrey, in the backfield, and I thought they had a okay defense last year. They showed up in quite a few games. They just couldn't really close out games. When I was looking at my list of player additions, they added a lot of firepower to that defense. Now, I'm not saying they're a contender for number 1 defense or anything like that, but I think they're going to be much improved from what they were last season. My question is going to be, again, just like you, the quarterback position. I don't know what Darnold's going to bring to the table. I knew kind of what to expect from Teddy Bridgewater. I don't know what to expect from Darnold because, again, like you said, was this, was the Jets, failures due to his play, or was it due to the coaching staff, or was it a combination of both? I mean, we'll see, as the season progresses for both teams, obviously, but I'm not as high on the Panthers as you are, although I think that there's definitely going to be a big improvement there.
Yeah. I think with McCaffrey back as well, I think that adds a dimension that they sort of lost on offense. We mentioned Mike Davis, who's now with the Falcons. We mentioned solid running back, but McCaffrey's a bit of a game changer. He can do a lot of things, and it's not just running the ball, it's catching the ball. He adds another dimension. Now, I will say this line's, still a work in progress. It's a young offensive line that, has a handful of new guys in there. So you add Darnold, you add line mix. I can see where things could go bad, but I think they added good line guys off free agency. So I think they'll be okay. And I just think they'll be sneaky good. But I am willing to accept that Sam Darnold is awful and crutches my hopes and dreams with this Carolina team, or my actual dream comes true and Darnold gets hurt and PJ Walker takes over. And then I get the reunition of Matt Rule and PJ Walker at Temple, and the pride of the Owls comes into play and leads them to the playoffs.
Listen, you're throwing a lot of college lingo here at me, okay? All I know is that before we started recording, you were telling me about how you were rooting for the Jets last season because you're a big Darnold guy.
I am not a big Darnold guy. I have hated Darnold my whole life. So having my betting hopes relying on Sam Darnold, it's not my greatest joy in life, I guarantee you.
Well, listen, maybe that's what you're saying on air, okay? But before we start recording, you were telling me about last season. I had that New York drop because I love Darnold. And now he's with the Panthers. So guess who I'm rooting for?
Games. It was Flacco who took over because Darnold got hurt.
Listen,
and I was getting like 20 points.
I don't remember who was playing, but I remember you telling me that, okay? So just come clean. Let everybody know you're a big Darnold guy. So I'm like I said, I think this team is going to be improved. And I think the biggest improvement is going to be on defense. I'm not as bullish as you are on the entire team as a whole. But I think there's definitely improvements, and bringing McCaffrey back. I mean, when you get a guy like that back, it doesn't matter who you've got, at the quarterback position or who you have on the outside in the skill positions. Getting a guy like that back is going to boost your team's efficiency, I believe.
Yeah, definitely so. All right. So their number sits at 7.5, much like the Falcons. I will say I'm across the board on this one. I took 7.5 on the over. I think this could be a sneaky sort of 10-7 season for the Carolina Panthers. So I'm way over on the Carolina Panthers. So
you are feeling that Darnold love.
If you search around, you can find some adjusted win totals, and there's a nice 9 on there with some really good plus if you really want to dip your toe into those kind of waters.
Listen, I'm not dipping my toe in that kind of water, okay? I'll let you go skinny dipping in it, but I'm not dipping my toe in it. I'm going to stay away from it.
The division odds overall are 10-1, and I will also say I have a bet on the Carolina Panthers to win the division at 10-1. So
of course you do.
So I'm assuming you are not in love with this. You are a Panthers hater.
Listen, I'm not a Panthers hater. I defended him more than anyone else I know of last season, okay? But I will make you an offer. If you want to see a return on that investment, give me the money, okay? I'll hold on to it, and I'll get you back some sort of profit. I don't know how, but I feel more confident in me being able to get you a profit off of that than those bets will.
Yeah, I'll pass on that. So Super Bowl is 80-1 overall. Any love there? 35-1 to win the conference.
No. Listen, again, like I said, I think that they're going to be approved. I don't think that they're Super Bowl ready yet.
Yeah.
Well,
to complete my trifecta of Carolina bets, technically it's a superfecta because I might have the adjusted win total at over 9 as well. But for our preview show today, to complete the trifecta, I have the yes on the playoffs at plus 240 as well, minus 300 on the no. So I'm a yes, definitely on the playoffs at plus 240.
Wow, man, you really are all in, aren't you?
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Trust.
I don't blame you. I see the potential, especially based off what they did last season. Just they showed snippets of it. I mean, I'm way more conservative than you are, but I see the potential, so I don't blame you for it. But
I would be much happier if we made a trade for Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, I'd feel more confident. Then I might lay some of my hard-earned money on that.
All right, so I'm all in on Carolina this year, and that completes our look at the NFC and AFC South. I think we're going to go up north next week. So NFC North, AFC North. One of those divisions is deep and really good. One of them probably has one team and three really, really bad teams in it. So that should be fun to get into, unless our guy finds a sleeper team in the NFC North. But anyway, be sure to return to us next week so we get into the NFC, AFC North on our NFL preview. Continue to follow us on college football previews. We just wrapped up the Big 12 and the ACC. One more to go, the SEC and the Big 10. That'll come out Monday. And then Thursday, our pick show begins for college football. And then our pick show begins for NFL the next week. So it's coming right at us full bore. Achilles, what do you got for us?
Same as always. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at TD Achilles, or you can find me on Instagram. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's GLN_ that dude Achilles.
All right. Be sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube so you don't miss any of the action. I'm Champ Chesterfield for Achilles Reign, and we're out.